All right. Well, we are at the top of the hour at 12 o'clock, and we are going to start our second panel discussion, which is going to be women in finance. And you ladies have to make sure you get this information, because we all know whether you're working for someone else, definitely if you're working for yourself, finances is a very big and important part of running a business. And that's my strong point. I have a bookkeeping accounting background, and so this is going to be a topic after my own heart. So I'm looking forward to what these ladies have to say. You know, you can always learn something different. And so, like I said, we have the Women in Finance panel. We have the moderator, who is Tiffany Austin. We have Angela Fubler. We have Tashay Thompson, and we have Anu Bourgeois. And so take it off, ladies.
Thank you, Kalina. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Tiffany Austin, and I will be the moderator for the panel, as Kalina said. I am a financial regulator here in Bermuda, but I'm not here in that capacity today. I am here as a supporter of entrepreneurs, a supporter of women, a supporter of local businesses, and so I'm truly honored to moderate this panel between Tashay, Angela, and Anu. So welcome, ladies.
Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome. Yes.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So I'll ask you to each introduce yourself, and I just want to start off with telling the audience what motivated you to be an entrepreneur. So Anu, I'll ask you to start.
Yeah, so I'm Anu Bardwaj. I'm the founder of SHEQONOMI. I hope you're all enjoying this platform, watching these sessions. If you're not joining us today and watching a recording, I think I knew I was an entrepreneur at a very young age. I loved to sell things. I loved people. I loved engaging. I loved being creative, and I loved finding solutions to complex problems. And when I was in college, I started my first business. I asked my father to give me $5,000 so I could learn how to set up a company, and made my first business cards before I graduated, because I was like, I don't really want to apply for a job. I want to just start my own company. And I know it's going to fail. I might as well fail fast and fail hard and, do it before I leave college. And I think that's when I realized, and most people that have known me throughout my journey have said, Anu's always starting something, and it just gets easier the more times you try. And we had a talk earlier this morning about confidence and doing things you're not comfortable with and trying something new, and what happens if you fail. So basically, I've been an entrepreneur for decades. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to age myself today, but I don't think I'd be doing anything differently. I don't think I would be challenged as much. And I think ultimately it's in my DNA. And I come from immigrant parents, and I think that has something to do with it, but you really have to understand what's driving you, motivating you, and what kind of impact and legacy you want to leave in the world. So for those of you who are questioning if you are an entrepreneur, ask yourself those questions. Is there something that you can do better than anyone else in the world, and that the world would be in a better place? And if so, then I would say go for it.
Excellent. Thank you, Anu. Angela, over to you.
Wow. Great. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Angela. I am the founder and CEO of Burke Unlimited and the Chatmore British International School. And I use them both because Burke Unlimited is the consulting company that led to the creation and the formation of Chatmore British International School. How I got here, Anu's comment on, starting quite young, I think I can relate to that. And I did write that in my notes early hours of this morning. It's just like, you know what? My mom had, her mother owned a shop. And I guess I wouldn't have said then that that's where it came from. But I think there was some kind of subliminal message that went on there. She was very entrepreneurial. And I remember one day my mom she was having a bake sale for the Girl Guides, and I took all of her brown paper bags, I didn't even know, and I filled them with rocks and grass, and I put prices on them, and I was selling them to my younger sisters. And I got in a lot of trouble that day. But when I reflect on because she didn't have any brown paper bags for her bake sale. But when I reflect on it, I think, yeah, it probably was always in me. but I'm accidental. I call myself an accidental entrepreneur because I did leave the Ministry of Education to pursue my PhD. And in doing so, I was approached by a parent on a visit, taking my son on a visit to his school. And she said, I know that you're no longer in education anymore. And I have a child, he has learning disabilities. My background is in educational psychology, learning disabilities, and behavior management, program development. And I just went and saw her son, wrote a report, and she hired me. And so I had no real plan to be in business. So if that's any inspiration to anybody out there, I think we mentioned it yesterday. It's a great first time I've kind of heard it that way, is that, people can discover you as an entrepreneur without you actually knowing. They can see something in you that leads you into this area. So that's me.
I like it, the accidental entrepreneur.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to steal that.
Yeah. Teshae, over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what motivated you to become an entrepreneur.
All right. I hope I'm not frozen. I look frozen on my screen. I hope I'm not frozen on you guys' screen. Am I frozen?
You are frozen, but we can hear you.
We're frozen, but it's okay. I'll rock it. My name is Teshae Thompson. I am the founder of Fuel Financial Coaching, and I'm definitely going to steal that term, accidental entrepreneur, although I don't think anything's by accident. I think everything happens for a reason.
Correct.
For me, I've always admired entrepreneurs, and I've actually saw myself as one. I've worked with so many entrepreneurs, so many female entrepreneurs, and they've always inspired me. I have so many friends who are serial entrepreneurs. They're always jumping from business to business and always have these ideas. And in my job capacity, I have the privilege to work with, like I said, so many entrepreneurs, and it's inspiring. But for me, what did it and kind of changed the trajectory of my life was COVID-19, and I'm pretty sure everyone's heard this. Last year, when the world turned upside down, my job was forced to reduce and cut back our hours. And that significantly really impacted quite a bit of staff. People I cared about were sitting there wondering and had anxiety and fear, like, how was I going to pay my mortgage? How was I going to get my kids through school? What bill can I pay this month? And just seeing so many people with so much anxiety, I started investing at a very early age. I want to say 18, but I was what I call a serial saver at an even younger age. I remember my mom saying to me that I was begging for a doll set for Christmas, and she told me if I wanted it, I had to save for it. And I was looking at her like she had a third eye, like save? Like I was like 7, like what's that? And she essentially told me, anytime I have money, pack it away. So I'll find money, pack it away, and stash it. So I was like, okay, cool. So I would go around the house looking for money. I would see her put money in her purse. I was like, okay, money. Let me take it and stash it and pack it away. So I started saving at a very early age and started getting into investing because my background's in economics at 18. So I've been doing this for over 20 years now. And the knowledge and experience I've gained has been tremendous. And I don't see many females that talk a lot about investing and how they can make the money work and grow for them. So when COVID hit and everyone was wondering, how can I get an additional stream of income? For me, it was like, how can I inspire people to become financially literate and empower them to essentially, if anything like this ever happened, you're prepared. And no one could ever prepare for a pandemic. But what you can prepare yourself for is not being in a position to have to worry about money if you empower yourself and learn about different tools and opportunities to invest. So that's essentially how I got into coaching and what motivated me.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies. Teshae, I really like that last bit you talked about, COVID being really a catalyst for so much opportunities that we have now, so many new business ventures that have come up in the past, year and a half, 2 years or so. But, you know, it was not always easy to start a business. I know finances is one barrier to entry that a lot of entrepreneurs tend to face. But Ken, you know, in your experience, and this is open to the panel, can you just talk about some of the barriers of entry that entrepreneurs might face, and maybe even in your own experience, some of the challenges that you had and that you had to overcome, that way our audience can know what to look out for and really help them on their journey to entrepreneurship. I'll leave it to anybody to start.
I'll jump in. I think for me, challenge, I guess, and barriers to entry, because I didn't know there were any barriers to what I was doing. Somebody liked it and I just ran ahead and did it. And I just assumed everybody would like what I was offering, right? I just assumed everybody would jump to my great idea because, you know, 4 people really liked it, right? And they were the 4 people in your real big world. And so for me, it was realizing that I needed to have a business plan if anybody wanted to give me money. And realizing, and I have to say this, I am probably, and I said it yesterday, I'm probably the least person you want to have in a finance panel, but probably the best person you want to have in a finance panel. I have no economics background. When I made deposits in the early days, we have a joke still on our team. The bank would always call because I'd always get it wrong. Either the amount was wrong or the slip was made out wrong. So, you know, the barriers sometimes was myself. And my own confidence in myself, and realizing that people didn't just like what I did because I liked it, though that was a selling point. You know, if I was passionate about it, then I was a lot of times able to convince people to be passionate about it. But not having a business plan, not having a budget, I had my own money. I had my own money back then. And I was, like Tashay said, I had this skill, I guess, this gift to be able to manage things. I had multiple accounts, so I was able to pull from different places and balance my finances to make things work. But it really was an eye-opener when you go to the bank and you say, I have this great idea, and they say, okay, well, where's your business plan? And you have a piece of paper that just kind of outlines your program, right? So that was a big challenge for me starting out without having a business background. So I don't know if it's different. I'm sure it's different for people who understand you know, business. But if you don't, then it can be very tricky for you if you just think you have a great idea that everybody's going to buy into. It can be a showstopper sometimes for you.
Shay, you want to go next?
Thanks.
I mean, I can. Again, I'm super new to this. So every time I'm listening to an entrepreneur kind of say what they've experienced is, I learn something new and I just jot down notes. But for me, I would say the biggest challenge was me, just the mindset. I got really comfortable in a day-to-day job. And I got comfortable in, you know, having a consistent salary, and I got comfortable in just a lifestyle. And it didn't push me. It didn't inspire me to kind of get outside my comfort zone. So when everything kind of was shaken up, for lack of better words, I was forced to kind of think outside the box. So what I'm doing, literally, it's very minimal overhead at this moment. I'm coaching. You know, I meet some great people and we sit down, we have some sessions, and it's phenomenal. So the biggest challenge was myself and getting in the mindset that, Tashay, you can be an entrepreneur. You have all this information and knowledge that you can give people to inspire them to kind of see another opportunity for ways to generate income. So that was my greatest challenge. And once I got over that fear, once I got over that, not thinking it could be me, and I hear that a lot, like when entrepreneurs get into this, they're so passionate. Everyone says, I see your passion when you talk about finances and investing, like you light up when you're talking about the stock market. That's weird, but that is me. So that my biggest challenge initially was myself. And once I got over that, I'm loving this journey. I'm loving the people that I'm meeting. I'm loving the people that I'm able to touch and inspire, and just showing people that it's possible to have financial freedom. And if you believe in and put the steps in place, that you can achieve it. And that looks different for everybody. It'll look different for you. It'll look different for me. Some people are like, oh, I need to have $1 million. Like, that's not what I consider financial freedom. I consider it not having to worry, not having all the pressures of kind of figuring what's next, and just having a nice, clear, and in mental health, it comes up a lot, just strong mental health.
So there's a word in Chinese that's beautiful to share. Like, thank you so much for sharing. And I totally get it. The biggest barrier is you, ultimately, because it's that mindset of, if you don't believe in you, who's going to believe in you, right? Ultimately, that's the bottom line. And for me, my story has always been that Chinese word, and I don't even know what it is. Same word for crisis in Chinese is opportunity. Have you heard this? The same character. Same character. See, we all learn something today, if not
learn something new every day.
So the same word for crisis is opportunity. And when COVID first started, that was my signal. It was like, green light, go. I was like, bring it on. Let's do this. Like, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be affected by this. What's the greatest population? In my mind, who needs the most help? And what came to my mind at the time was refugees. At the end of the day, they have nothing, leave alone. Some of them don't even have digital identity. And we saw what's going on in Afghanistan, right? Where you don't have a banking system and women are in crisis mode. How do we help those people? And most importantly, there's 900 million girls right now that were out of school. I mean, those of us who've suffered, there's a whole nother level and layer of suffering, right? For those people who can't read, who can't write, who don't have any money, who don't have a home, like that's the real crisis right there. And what's the real opportunity? So we ended up designing SHEQONOMI, which was a low-cost mobile app where you can listen, learn, and earn for those people who can't read or don't know what the virus is, or how do you protect yourself? They don't have a TV, a newspaper. So ultimately, the thought was, we have to build this tech. We have to build it in places where they don't have the best connectivity, the best Wi-Fi. And we have to do it in a place where it's low cost. So we built it on $10 mobile phones, reaching people living on $2 a day. And so that was the hardest problem that I could find. And I said, you know what? That's been a barrier for so many for so long, but now it's a matter of life and death. So if we could go solve that problem, we've created a real opportunity for them, but also all these businesses to engage with this population that has been underbanked and unbanked. So ultimately, it was like the problem was really just like the driver of everything, right? The barrier. It was like, if we can break this, we can break anything. And that's going to open up so many doors. So I think ultimately, when you said you think out of the box, what box? Where is this box? I don't see a box. Because I'm so far outside the box, right? I'm not in the box. And when that happens, then you're really onto something.
No, I think that's a great point. And I think Donna mentioned it a little bit of that in her session, that cognitive agility, that ability to kind of read and kind of, and then leads to that anticipation, right? So while she said that, I sat here and I said, oh my goodness, how many different things have I done since 1998 to get to where I am right now? And it's still moving. There were 13 different businesses or different business activities that led to the development and the design of a school. And there's a story behind all 13 of those spaces, right? My first franchise. I bought my first franchise because my son had an issue with reading that I wanted fixed. I was a teacher. No teacher's children have issues, just so that you know that. Teachers' children shouldn't have any issues. That's the teacher's perspective. So you try and fix everything. Well, I found something that I thought would fix him. And it ended up being something that is now, I'm still using it and now using it, selling it in the Caribbean. I've been selling in the Caribbean now for about 20 years with a company called Scientific Learning, who just connected with Carnegie Learning. So I didn't know that it was going to grow to that point, and I was the second or third company to take it on. So I've grown with it. So you just don't know. And that cognitive agility that leads to the anticipation, because when you're reading and you're researching and you're listening to people and talking to people's needs, talking to people about their needs, it leads you to design and develop things that you least expect. But if it hits on what your passion is, then you're ready to go, right? You can make it happen. And I think that's one of the things that I hear. I guess sometimes that makes me very sad when I hear people say that they're going to start a business. I'm going forward in business. And then you talk to them like 2 or 3 years later and they quit, they quit or they left it because they weren't making the money that they wanted to make, or they had to adapt, but they adapted differently. I always want to be like, no, keep going, because I think that, you know, that perseverance is what really gets you there. That grit, right? I think someone wrote a book about grit, Angela Duckworth, I think, and that grit, that passion and perseverance is what pushes you into it every day. You wake up and you can't wait to do something else, right? Related to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliance.
Yes, beautiful. Beautiful. Like I mentioned before, I'm a supporter of entrepreneurs. You know, I think that entrepreneurs like you three ladies, as well as the other panelists, I think you're a special bunch of people. I think you must be protected at all costs because you see a gap in society or you see a need in society, and you are the ones that are proactively seeking to address it. So, you know, you talked about it from the humanitarian perspective, Anu, you know, Tashay, you talked about it just from having to pivot based off of circumstances, you know, that the world was going through. And Angela, you know, not so much selfishly because your children, you know, you have to be selfish with, but, you know, you saw something that needed to be addressed and you went and addressed it. So a question for you then is, how do you know that your idea goes from just an idea and a hobby and a habit that you might be doing or offering on the side to something that can actually generate some sort of income for you or can be a paid service? Because that could be a leap for people. You know, there are people with skills and skill sets and knowledge, but they just don't necessarily see that as something that can transfer into, you know, having some sort of financial income. So perhaps you, Angela, you know, because I know you were, you know, you talked about it from the schooling perspective.
Yeah, no. Like I said, I probably was born to be in education. I'm the eldest of 3 girls, so the older sister. My sisters are in this business with me. And so in terms of, you know, taking what I was doing and turning it into a business, once it was identified for me, it became like, it was more than a passion. I guess it became a compulsion. I wanted to do it so much that I wanted to help. It was my mission to help people, to help children, to make sure that families in Bermuda were happy and healthy, and not happy in that kind of, you know, basic sense, but happy and healthy, meaning they understood, they knew what it meant to be a family, to work together as a family. And so that's where it started. It really started with me helping families who had children with behavior difficulties, moderate to severe behavior difficulties. That's what I was doing in the Ministry of Education. And I was able to then use that expertise to provide workshops to schools, to parents, provide support to families. And I have to tell you, I gave a lot of that away in the beginning, because education, I just feel like is something that shouldn't be paid for, if I can even say that, earning a private school, that it shouldn't be paid for, but because everybody deserves it. So for me, then getting into a school, and my wonderful accountant is here with me today, but getting into a school, if you can imagine going into something with the heart for something, and then having someone not be able to pay their fees, and then what do you say, right? Your child can't come to school. That just was never going to be anything that I could say to a parent. But it was what happened. It was what happened, and it sometimes created a cycle that wasn't always good for finances, right? But I was using my talents. I was using my ability to teach, to help families. And I was in homes. I mean, I was going into people's homes and sitting with them and watching them work. It was amazing. It was life-changing for me to see families change that way. So I guess, again, being identified, I was probably already doing it, but never thought to monetize it, because it was education. Like, it was education. And it took some time for me to kind of get to that place where I could say, yeah, let's charge people for this thing that they really need. But that is business, right?
Exactly.
Right?
Yep, and
you really need a pair of socks, you buy them.
Exactly. Much as your feet are cold, you still need to cover them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I knew you might have something similar, because I know, with SHEQONOMI, it is about, bringing voices of some disenfranchised women to the forefront into a more public forum. So just how did you make that leap from it just being, this humanitarian effort to it being something that you can monetize, and again, the ideas that some other audience might be able to leverage as well to have that connection? You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, for those of you who've always wondered this question of gender equity, and I know that's all of us on this call today, like, we're never going to be equal until we have financial inclusion, number one, and gender equality, number two, right? So ultimately, how do you get to that? How do you get to that point? You have to be heard first. Like, number one, your voices need to be heard. And the thought when I started developing SHEQONOMI was that you have these apps that are out there like Spotify or Pandora or Apple Podcasts. They work on these phones that are unreachable to people living on $2 a day. And you have so many people that are left out of the equation, meaning their voices are left out of the equation, correct? So ultimately what happens is we have no idea who they are, what they want, what they have to say, and policies are made on their behalf. So at some point that's got to change. And how are we going to change that if we don't give them access to this fundamental discourse where they're included in a conversation? So what we created was SHEQONOMI, obviously. Listen.sheconomy.com if you go there now, or sheconomy.com, you can see there's an app where we have 500 podcasts led by women, created by women, and they're now scaling on 100,000 mobile phones across Pakistan, Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, Bangladesh, Mexico, and the United States. And we did that on zero budget because there's women and girls saying, you know what, we haven't ever been given a chance to be heard, and we want to hear what the rest of the world has to say at the same time. Now, what's interesting is in 2 weeks, we're going to be scaling all over India to 1 million mobile phones. And then we're on track to head to the refugee communities. We signed an MOU with the United Nations Development Program for refugee camps. What happens when we finally get to hear what those refugees have to say, what their experience was during COVID? Do you think our world's going to be transformed at that point? I think it is, because at that point, we're going to hear what innovations they came up with, how they make it through this 18 months or 24 months or however long they've been enduring what they've endured. What's even more important is we said, what happens when women's voices are not only heard, but then you're incentivized with cryptocurrency for everybody listening so that they can be financially included. Now that's completely innovative. Most podcast apps right now take your data and they make money off of you. So what happens when we start to incentivize you with rewards and you get to feel like part of the equation ultimately? Not only you, but your daughters, your sisters, your mothers and your grandmothers. And that's who I was thinking of, these women in India, these women, children in Africa. And we built everything on the blockchain from day one. So we really didn't see a box. We were really seeing like, what is it that grandma in Kenya needs right now? What is it that girl in India without shoes needs right now? How many of these women don't even have tampons or vaccines? Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
And what if I have the money, I can donate? So ultimately for me, it wasn't about valuation. It was about value. What value can I create to these human beings, for Christ's sake? These women and girls who will be sold, trafficked, or for that matter, they're not even going to have an education and they become marginalized by their community, get treated like third class. So that problem for me was like, yeah, I'm going to get $1 off of this, but what's that going to do to their life? It's going to be transformational, right? At the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's always hard to go after Anu because she's just so inspiring. But Angela said something that was really interesting about not knowing that you can charge for this. You just give it away because it was education. And I had the exact same feeling. I was like, here's the information. The information's out there. Like, let me share it with you. I mean, for me, it was just like, how can people generate that walkaway money? How is it that you have the sufficient enough equity or capital or funds to think differently, to be differently, to act differently? So for me, it was like I wanted to get more women, especially women of color, in this position, because there is a huge financial gap between women and men, especially people of color. So it was like, I don't want to charge for this because I feel like this is where we need to go as a community. I think we need to get more women who are financially independent, who are financially free. And that can be a catalyst to inspire and change kind of this wealth gap that we do have. So I didn't seek out to charge, but when one of my friends who I started coaching was like, gave me a check, I was like, wait, you're paying me for this? And to be honest, when I think about the initial stage, because I was very green at the time, because you always want to do it coming from a great place, and it's never, for me, it wasn't about the money. It definitely wasn't. But you have to recognize that time is money. And one of the things that I say to my clients is, what value do you put on your time? Because a lot of people come to me and say, I just want to be able to spend more time with my kids. That has a value attached to it. So when you start thinking about all the time and effort, I think Angela said she had 13 or 14 business types of all the time and energy that goes into that. That's time away from your family. That's time away from loved ones. That's time away from things that you can be doing. And that has a monetary value towards it. So when I realized this can be a paid service, every time I call my financial advisor, she charged me, although I generally was telling her what I wanted to do and what she should do. And as opposed to her giving me information about what I should be doing, I was like, wait, this is not a two-way street. So it's like, so you're going to charge me for that. And so there is an opportunity to do so. So, for me, when I realized somebody gave me a direct deposit and actually for actually coaching them and just sharing some information with them.
Yes, thank you very much, ladies. I do want to just remind the audience, feel free to ask us questions. We have the Q&A function, also the chat. I'll be monitoring that if you have questions for the panelists. But I just, continuing on with what was just spoken about, I'm sorry. Starting up a business, you might need some additional resources, right? And so you have an idea, maybe somebody gives you a check, like, in your instance, to Shay, but it's still like, okay, does this mean that I'm legit now? Like, is there anything else that I need to do? Is this enough? Do I can now put my name out there? I have a domain name. Is that suffice? So you know what, just from your own experiences, maybe you can tell what support or, programs are available to people who do want to really get started with opening up a business or starting a business and converting it to just an idea to an actual practice that is, legitimized and valid and, goes through all those, the legal stuff, I guess, as well. So that way you aren't getting burned on the back end for doing something that you may not have the permission to do, depending on what your business idea is.
I'm going to start and do a shameless plug for BEDC. BEDC is a great resource, and I know you guys probably have many other resources, but in my other hat, when I have entrepreneurs that come to me with an idea and like, Shay, is this something that actually has legs? They are the first go-to that I say, you have to speak to the people at BEDC. They're well-versed in finance, strategy, marketing. If there's a gap that needs to be filled, loans, all of that. And then the product offering that they have is extremely extensive. So I'm not just saying this because it's a BEDC sponsored and put on by BEDC, but BEDC has some great people over there, the wealth of knowledge. And I always encourage people to start there first. Also, what I say to people is we have so many amazing people in our lives. And what I've realized over the years, I like to call these people like they're actually on my board of directors for my life. So anytime I'm pondering whether I should do something, go left, go right, up, down, I refer to people who are in that space. People who have done it. When I was going through this process and saying, should I look to do this as be an entrepreneur and actually do this, I talk to so many serial entrepreneurs who are in the space, who have the issues with clients and getting clients and all those things that you're going to face as an entrepreneur. So when you have those conversations with those individuals that you trust and you have your best interests at heart, those are the best resources, first and foremost, to start with. And we all know those people. I'm sure we have access to those people and trust what they say. I always like to say, I'm going to hear it from the horse's mouth. So Angela knew I'll probably be coming to them asking more about, just different things related to entrepreneurship, but those are great starting points for sure.
No, yeah, I mean, yes. yes. I love that board of directors of my life. I had a chair. The chair of my board of directors of my life was my husband, and he's in finance, he's in investments. And he was always a no. And so I always had, because, he was very tight with his money and our money. But I always turned his no into my own yes. And somehow I would make it work. But, I had my parents, I can't thank them enough, how many times they supported me and backed me for my loan from, Bank of Butterfield. I think I've had 3 loans with Bank of Butterfield. I did early days go into BEDC. I think it was just William Spriggs and one other person in a little building somewhere. And you know what? It was the best experience ever for me. And I got little nuggets, and I wish in hindsight that I'd been more assertive. I think my fear of what I was doing, I think I was very fearful of where I was going because I didn't know that I didn't exploit them enough. So I would kind of like have hits and misses that I created on my own. They were always there. So you go and you get a lot of good information, and then you use that information, and then you wonder, well, why didn't I just keep going? So BEDC, honestly, and to see them the way that they've grown and matured and developed, and they haven't asked us to do this. We're not getting paid to do this for them. Like, really, guys, if I was to do this again, and if I was to start another business, I would have my Joyce Chesley Hayward and my Profit Freedom, and I would have BEDC, and I would keep my board, like my life board members, And yeah, I would pursue. I had a fairy godmother, father. I really did. I had some, my godparents helped me with money. They were actually paying salaries for me for about 5 or 6, maybe more than that, months. And I paid them back, no interest on the loan. I had a friend of mine from the US who helped me start my preschool, and she wanted me to have a particular person in my business, and I couldn't afford it, and she paid for that person to be there. So, and women, I mean, just women who provided me with so much good resource and information that you just have to put yourself out there. And it is scary sometimes. It really is. If you don't have the skill sets, you're a teacher who's starting a business. I mean, it's different. And so my finances came from wherever I could. I got $235,000 from a company when I started out my business, because I had a business plan and they liked what they saw, and they thought that it was going to bring benefit to the community. And it did. Over 1,000 children have that preschool benefited from supporting that preschool. So there are lots of different places to get your sisters, your brothers, your cousins, ask anybody. Anybody who believes in your vision, they become your investors, and never forget them. Never forget them.
So I fully agree with you. Start with your family. Start with whoever believes in you first. And ultimately, these are people that have your best interest at heart. And for me, when I started SHEQONOMI, for all of you, my first backer was my 9-year-old daughter at the time, Arya. And I said to her, we've got 900 million girls out there that aren't in school, and you have Zoom school and Google Classroom, and you see how hard it is. Like in a year, you'll be back in school. But what happens to all those girls that are out there in India and Africa? When they don't go to school, it's over. Like they're going to be married or trafficked or sold, or something bad could happen to them, and they don't have a chance. And she said, well, what do you need, Mama? What can we do? And I said, well, I've been saving since the day you were born. I have a college fund. And if you believe in this, I can liquidate that, and we have the seed to launch something magnificent that'll give them a chance if we're successful. But it could go wrong. But I'm willing to take that chance and dedicate whatever I can do to help them. What do you think we should do? And she said, well, if it gives them hope, take the money. I'll find my way. I can make it to college. Don't worry, but they need hope. And I called my tech team in India, group of guys that went out to the village, and they said, Anu, we understand, because these women are living on $2 a day. They're out in the street right now. We had lockdown. Many of them are going to die like within the next few months, because there's no food, there's no water, there's no medicine. What do? And they've had no savings, and these are the poorest of the poor. So they said, we will build this tech. And I said, you're going to be India's heroes. And this is when they had 3 cases. And now it's like a whole country, right? 1.4 billion people, high density. What's going to happen to them? So they said, we'll take care of the tech. You go find the money. So we went to apply for grants, and I applied for the Islamic Development Bank COVID Innovation Solution from the Royal Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They had 5,000 applicants from 175 countries, 30 winners, 7 women, 1 Hindu, and we won the grand prize. And from that money that we won, it was the Royal Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, right? Saying women's voices are what's going to carry this in COVID forward. Like, this is what we need. Not only did the Royal Kingdom of Saudi Arabia come forward, it was the Sultanate of Oman, the United Arab Emirates, the People's Republic of Bangladesh, and the Republic of Indonesia. And they said, you're not just doing this for the girls, you've got 2 billion women of color behind you, right? They're with you, and you've got our governments behind you and our bank. We believe in you. First time in the world that they're all coming together. And this was like, at that moment in time when we had the seed capital, they said, we're going to give you 3 years to execute. And I said, that's too long. I need the money now. I need the money this year. I need it in a year. And they said, well, you won't be able to execute. And I said, watch me, because these people are going to die if we don't. 9 months, we have 3 apps, they're out in market. And now we're ready to go and find sponsors and partners. And then we came to BEDC. I had a conference in your country back in June, and I left my shoe in Kalina's office and came back, and she's like, what are you doing? And I said, I have this virtual conference, and here we are today, ladies. We're here at Women's Entrepreneurship Day. They said, maybe we can use the same thing for our women. And I said, I would love to use the same thing for your women. And we're here now. So again, thank you, BEDC, for believing in us. Thank you, all of you, for coming today and being a part of this. And it's the first time, and you're part of the success story. And once we show this platform, the next thing we're going to do is onboard another 3,000, 5,000 people for Women's Day, International Women's Day next year. So we're just going to build our tribe and do what we got to do. And sometimes it starts with a grant. Sometimes it starts with your daughter's college fund. Sometimes it starts with your house. But you know what? If you have a big enough why, you're going to do it, and you're going to do it well.
That's right.
Yes, thank you very much,
That's
ladies.
awesome.
Go ahead,
That's so
Angela.
true. No, I was going to say, you know, that is so true. I think I shared with you guys yesterday, you know, how I started with my own money, right? And I spent out of that, but it kept coming because it was going to happen, right? I was going to see this through, and I'm still here. I'll make it. I'll be okay. And I think that's what we have to take on, is that we can do this. You know, a news story is so inspiring. It's so energizing. And I think when we hear those stories, they inspire us, much like the, you know, Michelle Obamas and the Cicely Tysons, you know, and the Oprahs, right? It's the work behind it, right? We see this, the front view, but it's everything that goes behind it. And I think it's inspiring. It should inspire us to keep going. This conference is called PerSHEverance. I'd have to take my time to say that, right? But it's called PerSHEverance, and that's what it's about. It's about knowing what you see, believing in it, and going for it at any cost. And, you know, a lot of people would say to me, oh, you're crazy. You know, what about your, you know, end of life, you know, funds, and that'll come. You know, my end of life is going to come when it comes. And so a news story is so true. And she reminded me that $1,500 came from both my children's accounts in order for me to pay the lawyer to give me a limited liability company. And I wrote a letter to them saying that I would pay it back. My daughter is now the director of the school. And my son just donated $1,000 of his own money. He would like to share as an investor. And he just donated $1,000 of his own money to students at our school to reinvest. Like, so something about it works. And you don't get it perfect all the time, all the way through. You hear these stories. It's not perfect, but I think what you need, what I hear, when I hear Newman, I hear Tashay, and when I read people's stories, is it's possible. Like, I can do this. This is me. You know, if you're feeling it, I hardly finish reading books on these kinds of stories, because one idea gets in my head and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I can't even finish the book because I just want to now apply what I've read or what I've heard to what I'm doing. I don't know if anybody else feels in this panel has ever felt that way. Like, just the excitement makes you want to, like, go out there and do it yourself.
Just get started.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be short and sweet, Kalina, and this is why they say the world cannot run without women. Anu and Angela are just amazing examples of that. I mean, just so strong and so inspirational. And you see a problem, and just us as women, we just want to fix it. You know, we have so much on our shoulders that we just want to take care of. And that's why, for me, getting into the investing space was like, and the reason why we're called Fuel is like, I want to fuel people's passions. I want to fuel the inspiration. Like, we have these girls and we want to achieve it so many times. Like I say, I want to do this, but sometimes it's very difficult to kind of believe it. And when I see people who are, you know, able to start seeing that, hey, I don't have to worry about this month. I'm now seeing another opportunity, and I can now focus on whether it's my family or travel, whatever it is for that person. It's achievable. So like Angela said, like it's sometimes think you can't do it. And I want to inspire people to say you can do it. It sounds cliche, but literally when you have a passion to inspire change, anything's possible, especially when you're a woman. Like so.
Yes, give all you ladies a round of a hand. You guys have been doing an amazing job. I just wanted to let you know there is a question in the chat, so I figured I would answer it. And if anybody does have any questions, please put it in the Q&A so that we can answer them. So we have from Caroline. Is there any training institutes that you can recommend for annual staff training for AML or ATF? If no one does know offhand, I would say if you send me an email, Caroline, we will be able to get that information for you and send it. I know that I've done a few myself. I believe KPMG was the ones that put them on, but we can definitely get that information to you. So if you send us an email at info@bedc.bm, we can definitely point you in the direction of who would be able to, who puts on those trainings. All right, and so there aren't any question and answers right now. So if there are some, we have at least 3 minutes before we start our next session. But there have been some great feedback in the chats. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to read them, but great discussion, ladies, inspiring. Right back to you, Anu, and continued blessings with all that you're doing. Awesome, inspirational, ladies. Thanks, and please enjoy continued success. Thanks, ladies. And yes, God is truly in all of this. What a blessing you all are to others and have been to us. Much love today. Thank you. It's a woman's way to fix and nurture people and fix problems. Listening to these journeys is inspiring. This is an awesome panel. You know my glory, but you don't know my story. It takes work and passion to sustain your why. And it's just been so many great feedback. Somebody said, you're giving me goosebumps. And I want to share actually a comment that I read from Joyce. And I love this comment. It says, our businesses are sometimes our own hard work with a heart. So that I felt really, I had to read it a couple of times and I was like, oh my gosh, it really is. And so, great to be able to see comments like that. Yes, people who believe in your vision becomes your investors. And so we have a couple more questions. So let me go to the chat. Oh, someone said, I believe Bermuda compliance consultants do AML and ATF courses. And Michelle asks, Anu, what's the meaning behind SHEQONOMI?
So the old economy was the he economy, and the new economy is the she economy. What's going to happen coming out of COVID is that we are the ones that are fixing it. All of you watching, all of you, yes, all of you have the solutions, and all those girls, those women all over the world that we don't see that are going to hear us and we're going to hear them for the first time. That's what's going to fix this economy, global economy. The digital divide is about to be ended.
And I also want to thank Angela, because I don't think I've said it. Actually, I don't even think I introduced it this morning or said it enough. But our theme today is PerSHEverance. And it's definitely a play on words with she. And the thought process behind coming up with that theme was women have to persevere through so many and everything that's going on through the world right now. You know, we still have to play so many different roles, have so many different hats, but we still persevere. We still continue to go through. And so that's why we thought that that theme would be fitting for today, PerSHEverance. And so thank you, ladies, for joining our panel, accepting the charge to be able to speak to women about finances, investing, pushing through these times, whatever that looks like, and just hearing your stories. You have been an inspiration to a lot of people. Our attendees, again, I will urge you to go to the speaker pages, visit all the speakers, see their information, make those connections. Hopefully, most of you would have been able to download, for the Bermudians, the locals that are here, download your Sargasso code and order your lunch. If not, obviously, you can use it at a later date, but make sure that you do have that. That was part of your package. We do have your swag bag. So if you haven't been able to grab them, they will be in the office between Tuesday and Thursday. I also just wanted to make a quick mention about some of our sponsors. I'll get to the rest of them later, but we have some really great sponsors that every year that we do this is my 4th year planning it. And every year in planning it, these sponsors come on and see our vision. And if it wasn't, without them, this wouldn't happen. Whether it's in person or virtually, you know, there's always a cost. And so we're just thankful for that. And so I want to thank Butterfield Bank. I want to thank Bacardi. I want to thank Clarion, Bermuda Tourism Authority, HSBC, Deloitte. These are some sponsors that have continued to be with us every time we come and we ask. They have been in our corner. And so we have a lot more sponsors that we do want to also thank later on. But those ones, like I said, have directly been a part of ours. And so I want to thank them. I also want to thank Aisha Ramo of Seneva. She has opened a new company and she sponsored some prizes. So I want to thank her. Smith Law Bean, they have sponsored some prizes for our pitch winners. Amazing legal advice. Fusion for Business, Joyce Hayward with her accounting expertise, and the Economic Development Department. So those are some of our sponsors. We have some more to thank towards the end, but I didn't want to let the day go by without at least expressing some of that information. So thank you guys for joining us. We're looking forward to the next panel that's coming up at 1 o'clock, and that is with Aisha Boo. She is phenomenal. Every year we partner with the U.S. Consul and they would provide speakers list, and they would give their idea of some speakers that we may like. And when I saw a Facebook video interview of Aisha Boo, it was amazing. I was like, we have to have her. We have to have her. And so looking forward to that. So you guys can pop over, check your schedule, go into the next panel at 1 o'clock. Sorry, the next keynote speaker at 1 o'clock. She's going to be our last keynote. And I look forward to seeing you guys there. We do have one question and answer. So let me just check that before we leave. Maria, if you email me I'm going to put my email in the chat, and I can send that over to you. All right. Thanks, ladies. I'll see you in the next keynote talk. Have a good one.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have an awesome day.
Bye,
guys.
Bye.